Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and I hope everyone has had a great weekend out there as it pretty much comes to an end. But I imagine a lot of people do have some plans tonight as the Super Bowl starts in about 10 minutes from the time making this video right now. So I imagine this video is probably not going to make the rounds very well because, people's got plans out there, big game, Super Bowl, and all that. But I thought I would still pump out another update for this evening because it's going to be an incredibly active week of weather. There's going to be multiple storm systems, multiple winter storms, and we're really going to focus in on two of them. But I think there might be a third one. There might even be a fourth one over the next 7 days. I'm not talking about like the next 2 weeks, like 7 days. So we got a lot to go over. But like I said, we're just going to focus in on the first two storm systems that we're the most confident in. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to work west to east. So we're going to speak on the central U.S. first and then the eastern U.S. If you're tuning in, you want to hear some updated information on the winter storm in the mid-Atlantic, for example, then the eastern U.S. Timestamp in this video will be what you want to jump to. If you want to tune in to the big winter storm potential across the plains all the way to the Midwest, the Great Lakes region, then the central U.S., for example, timestamp will be what you want to tune into. So just trying to give you guys some tips and help you guys maneuver through the video. But we will get very detailed. And I will have kind of a special segment for you folks in the Mid-Atlantic because that winter storm is pretty close to us. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Very close to 100K subscribers. Very excited to hit that mark. We'll see when that happens, maybe over the next 48 hours or so. But that's going to be a pretty cool accomplishment for this channel for sure. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling tonight. Almost said this morning. So this is what we got going on as far as watches and warnings. So the teal color, those are winter storm watches. So you got one here in Kansas, and it's pretty much just in Kansas. And then we got some in the Mid-Atlantic and the Central Apps. So let's talk about this area first. These are winter storm watches. You got them in Roanoke, up to Lynchburg, over to Richmond, Charlottesville, Washington, D.C. I believe that's in Baltimore also. Yeah, Baltimore winter storm watches. The entire Delmarva, Dover, all the way up about halfway through New Jersey. Philadelphia, you technically do not have winter storm watches, but that could change. All right, we're watching short-range model guidance. Does this system trend north? We'll speak on that here in a second. Charleston, you have winter storm watches. Huntington, Blacksburg, Beckley. A lot of people have winter storm watches. It's a highly populated area, especially obviously once you get into the DC area. But for a lot of these areas, this will be your biggest winter storm of the winter season. So a lot of heavy wet snow and a little bit of ice. Now let's make our way back west. Okay, moving way too fast. Kansas. Winter storm watches up for a winter storm that's going to move in most likely like Tuesday night into Wednesday. As of right now, they're the highest confident in Kansas. We don't have any winter storm watches west or east, but I think we're going to get accumulating snow all the way back to Denver, especially the Rockies. And I think eventually as confidence increases, we're going to get winter storm watches most likely. I think, let's see if we can draw on this, through this entire, that is not big enough, we'll get it here, through this entire area right into here over the next, I would say, 24 hours. We'll see what happens, especially in the Kansas City. Winter storm watches into here. Okay, Chicago, this could be a pretty decent winter storm. If you don't get a lot off this one, there might be another opportunity as we get closer to the weekend. So that's what's going on right now as far as watches and warnings. We have special weather statements for what this system is going to bring to this area, but it's not going to be enough to prompt winter storm warnings or anything like that. Maybe winter weather advisories. But let's move away from that. Let's speak on the latest Euro model. And what we're going to do here is we're going to progress through two different systems. We're not going to get into the weekend. I think there's just so much to focus in on over the next 3 or 4 days that there's no point getting way ahead of ourselves and getting super confused. Let's start this off tomorrow evening, Monday evening, well, February the 10th, February the 9th right now. As you can tell, light snow in the blue breaking out across areas of the upper Midwest. We got some rain down here in Oklahoma. We continue to move into Tuesday morning. There's a lot going on here, but at the same time, nothing significant. We got a lot of light snow and kind of in the middle of the country in the blue, light returns. Could have a corridor of more moderate snow as we get into Missouri, southern Illinois, areas in Kentucky, maybe all the way up to Evansville. We'll see what happens with that. And I think the snow could pick up in intensity on that winter weather side as we progress into and move into Kentucky. Now, I would say there's not even a disconnection between this system and then the next. And we're already getting more moisture blossoming as we're getting into Tuesday. So snow's beginning to break out in southern Kansas, northern Oklahoma, a little bit of ice in that pink, freezing rain, sleet. And that kind of continues to move on. And it looks like it finally detaches itself kind of Tuesday evening. So it's kind of a long period, I would say a long opportunity for some winter weather, kind of in this area right here. I'm going to kind of draw kind of an area right into here. You're going to have kind of rounds of light, moderate snow, maybe just rain. Just depends on where you are as far as the cold and warmer side. But that moves on out. Not going to do a whole lot. And then the big system, Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, begins to crank up. So we got snow across the Rockies, snow all the way up to like Laramie and Cheyenne, snow all the way down to northern New Mexico. Winter weather becoming widespread across the middle of the country. We start to get into Wednesday morning. Heavy snow begins to break out across Kansas. 1,001 millibar low down here in Kansas. Texas. That'll get the job done. And you got this nasty corridor of ice. Freezing rain down here in central Oklahoma, Oklahoma City. Tulsa could get some freezing rain. Amarillo. You get in the far northern counties of Oklahoma, this could be more so snow. Kansas, definitely snow. Snowstorm begins to move into Kansas City Wednesday morning. And then as we're getting into midday Tuesday, still dealing with freezing rain, potentially down here to Tulsa, Oklahoma City. How much? I don't think this is going to be a huge, significant ice storm, but we have to watch the trends. Winter weather begins to move into Kansas. St. Louis, still snowing in Kansas City. Columbia, getting the snow. Snow makes it all the way up to Des Moines. Snow begins to move into Chicago. St. Louis is a big question mark. Are you going to get mainly snow or freezing rain or kind of a mixture of both? I think southern Illinois, points south to the Boot Hill, Missouri, even southern Indiana. I think this is going to be mainly rain. Once you get closer to Peoria, Indianapolis, Indiana, could start to get into more of that wintry mess. But the Euro certainly keeps you guys at more of an icy mix in St. Louis. But this is all snow, moderate to heavy snow up into Chicago Wednesday evening. And then we get into Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and this thing could really crank up for Michigan. And then we're going to stop it right here. I know you see snow down in Texas, but we're not going to get into that system. We're going to stop it right there for now. There's so much to focus in on that first system. There's no point in getting super far ahead of ourselves. And that's wild because, it's only 100 hours out. So GFS, what does it show? Is there any differences? It's a little bit colder, and it's a little bit more aggressive with the moisture. For example, we get into Tuesday morning, the GFS is really gung-ho about a corridor of heavy snow, and this could happen. We're not going to completely discount a model, but more heavier snow, heavier wintry mix in southern areas of Missouri. And the reason I would say this could happen is because a lot of times moisture likes to be further north than modeled. And no lie, there's going to be definitely cold air in this area. So if moisture does get a little bit further north, the cold air is just waiting to be tapped into with the moisture. So we do got this area of snow, southern Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, southern areas of Indiana. Watch out for that. And this light stuff up here in the plains certainly will accumulate. I have no issues accumulating at all. And that kind of begins to move out. And then here comes our big system. It looks the exact same thing the middle of the night, Tuesday night and Wednesday morning as it does on the Euro. Just a big area of moisture blossoming. It doesn't show as much snow further west in the western Kansas, for example. But this is some heavy snow moving over Kansas City. Chances are Kansas City wins the Super Bowl tonight. You're going to go home to a snowstorm as they head back home from, I think they're playing in New Orleans, the Superdome. But anyways, enough with the football. We'll continue to move forward. The GFS likes the idea of more snow rather than ice, and like St. Louis. So this will definitely be all snow in Kansas City. How far north will this axis of snow get? We'll make it all the way up to Milwaukee, Des Moines. It definitely looks like a pretty decent snow event for Chicago. Is this going to be winter storm warning criteria snow for Chicago? Not quite sure. It's definitely a colder storm in Indianapolis. This would be a mainly snow, ice right to your south. I would bet, though, you're probably going to mix a little bit. And then we move on, and then another system right behind it. This looks weaker, though. We'll stop it right there. I know as much as even I want to continue to go further, but there's no point in doing it, guys. I'm telling you, there's going to be so much that changes. There is. So let's just keep it at these first two systems. I get a sip of drink there. So the latest Euro, and we're just going to look at the operational run because I think this could definitely happen. It goes for over 10 inches of snow in areas of northern Kansas. It's a good 6 to 10 inch snowstorm in Kansas City. It brings at least a few inches of snow in northern Oklahoma. Okay, and this is between now and Thursday afternoon. This isn't even counting more systems to come after this. And it brings a pretty heavy corridor of snow from basically southern Nebraska, which I apologize, I haven't mentioned Nebraska a whole lot. Colorado brings accumulating snow from Denver, Front Range. This could bring a lot of snow to Lincoln, Omaha, Des Moines. There's just so many places to mention, right? But there it is, St. Louis, only an inch and a half off the Euro. So it kind of keeps y'all guys more on the icy side. And snow, I mean, it even shows snow in and remember, this combines both of those. This combines both storms, not just the first one, but both. But it does hit Chicago, even up to Milwaukee, with a pretty decent snowstorm, a several inch snowstorm. I mean, anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of snow, and this could hit lower Michigan pretty hard. And then we compare this up against the GFS. All right, it's not as much, say, into Chicago. It just isn't as much in general for the Midwest and to the Indiana, Ohio area. But it really likes the idea of very heavy snow in Nebraska. Kind of the same deal in northern Oklahoma, northern Texas. A few inches of wet snow, southern Nebraska. It likes a good half a foot snowstorm at least. And it really, both major models bring a pretty big time snowstorm into Kansas City. Is this going to be comparable to the early January event? I'm not quite sure. That was a pretty big snowstorm for you guys. But it wants to bring like over 5 inches of snow in St. Louis. You compare that to the Euro, only about an inch and a half. Now, the 18Z Euro is going to run here in a minute, and we'll see what that ends up showing. But if you do look at some blend of all model guidance, guys, this is what it's saying. And it literally, quite literally blends the GFS and the Euro together. That's the axis of snow right into here. And then there's going to be ice. Okay, but let's go on and zoom into these individual graphics. Let's start it off in Colorado. Denver going for 3 to 4 inches of snow. Castle Rock 4 to 6. You get into eastern Colorado, good for 2 to 6 inches of snow. Pretty much name a town in eastern Colorado, and you could get anywhere from about 2 to 6 inches of snow. The further I would say east you get, the more opportunity for snow. The bigger the opportunity for more snow, I would say. But definitely not a massive winter storm in this area by any means, but certainly this might be your first decent winter storm in quite some time outside of the higher elevations of the Rockies. Now you get into Kansas. And if I've mixed Kansas and Nebraska, which I feel like I probably have, any in this video, trust me, I know the difference. It's just when you're trying to spit out so much information. I already went back and watched a video from like yesterday, and I twisted up a part of it. I think I said something like some area was going to get a lot of ice when I meant to say snow. So it's going to happen, guys. You're going to notice that when so much information's flowing to your brain at one time, you're going to hiccup something. But they got a nice graphic from the National Weather Service here in Kansas. Wichita 4 to 6. Russell going for 8 to 12. Lawrence 6 to 8. Emporia 6 to 8 inches of snow. But almost the entire state of Kansas is getting snow. Now there is going to probably be a little bit of ice. And I would bet that being in the southern to southeastern sections of the state. Going for a little bit of ice down here, but not a big deal. Northern Oklahoma, an inch, 2 inches of snow. Guyman going for around an inch. Woodard, about an inch. Tulsa, maybe an inch or less. But ice could be a bigger deal in this area. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a really good ice graphic up. But one thing we can do, and this is what I'm going to do for you guys, because they do not have a really good ice graphic up. Oklahoma, let's look at the National Weather Service forecast. Let's look at that. Yeah, so they're going for over 1/10 of an inch of ice. I mean, actually almost around 1/4 inch of ice around the Oklahoma City area. So if you live in that dark pink, that's where you're good for about 1/10 of an inch of ice between now and Wednesday evening. Okay, so we continue to move forward and we kind of jump back up into Nebraska. several inches of snow, kind of south of that Interstate 80 corridor. Kearney, 4 inches. Lincoln, good 4 to 6 inches of snow. Omaha, 2 to 3. So this will be a decent winter storm. Could this trend north? It absolutely could. I don't think it's going to get all the way up here into like Valentine or anything like that, but we'll see what happens. Certainly could get, this will be a decent winter storm for you folks, a decent snowstorm, I would say, because no ice will be involved in southern Nebraska. Now we start to move in Missouri. This is when we're going to start to get out of the range a little bit. Remember, this only goes through 6 p.m. Wednesday. So just between now and 6 p.m. Wednesday, and the storm could be ongoing still, 5 to 9 inches of snow is what the National Weather Service is forecasting. Columbia, 4 to 8. St. Louis, 1 to 3. But just keep in mind, we kind of go back to this graphic right here. This is 6 p.m. Wednesday. Okay, so this is around 6 p.m. Wednesday on the European model. So it's still snowing in Kansas City, still winter weather ongoing in, say, St. Louis. So just keep that in mind. This is only through a certain time period. So this will look different when we look at it again tomorrow morning, most likely. Joplin, 1 to 2 inches of snow. Springfield going for 1 to 2 inches of snow. But, you're certainly going to run some ice in this. And I think this icing forecast is probably going to increase down here when we look at this again tomorrow morning, in my opinion. But Iowa, now between 6 p.m. Central Time, Wednesday, more snow could still be falling. Des Moines, 2 to 6, wide range. Creston, 3 to 7. You get into northern Iowa, not as much. Davenport, anywhere from 1 to 5 inches of snow. Dubuque, 3 inches or less. Waterloo, 1 to 4. And then we get into Illinois. This is when things get a little bit more fuzzy, okay? So they don't have this all the way through. This is just 6 p.m. Central Time. So just between then, or right now, and 6 p.m. Wednesday, already going for 3 to 7 inches of snow in Quincy, 1 to 4 in Bloomington, 1 to 4 in Lincoln, Springfield, 2 to 5. And this storm is still ongoing. Just keep that in mind. Still ongoing. So if you're wondering why aren't you showing Chicago, Mitch, Milwaukee, Michigan, well, that's because we're just not in range. They don't have graphics up yet, so I can't show it to you. But let's move to the eastern U.S. Latest Euro. All right, we got winter weather breaking out across Kansas. Winter weather. Kentucky. Winter weather breaking out across Kentucky. I think it'll be northern Kentucky. So we're going to compare the Euro with the GFS. Euro is going to be warmer. So this is midday Tuesday. Winter storm beginning to move in especially southern West Virginia. Heavy snow falling in northern Kentucky. Snow starting to break out. And I'm going to zoom into some short-range model guides for you folks in the Mid-Atlantic just to get a better look at this. Some icing possible in the higher elevations of North Carolina, but snow's beginning to break out across Virginia. We take it to about, it's around 7 p.m. Tuesday. Heavy snow in central to northern VA. Snow's making all the way up to D.C. Snow's moving into the Delmarva area, Maryland, Delaware. Snow's still falling back here in West Virginia. Southwest VA, you're dealing with some ice, freezing rain, sleet. But you continue and check it out how it's kind of ticked north. So we got snow falling as far north as Long Island Tuesday night, late Tuesday night. New York City, we got snow getting all the way to Philadelphia. And see this corridor right here, darker blue? That's heavy snow in the Delmarva. Someone could sneak and get 10 inches of snow from this. Heavy, wet snow. And how far north does this snow get? It wants to get some snow all the way up to Pittsburgh. A little bit of winter weather in Ohio. Some snow all the way into the far southern sections of southern New England. And then look at this ice starting to develop. And this is just heavy snow starting to make its way up to D.C. Wednesday morning. And then check it out. Before the storm can even let up, here comes the second storm. All right. Heavy snow begins to move into, and it's a lot of rain too. Heavy snow begins to move into lower Michigan. Look at that heavy snow. Detroit, are you going to stay on the snowy side or mix with freezing rain? It looks like Cleveland, no doubt you're going to mix, and you might go to all rain. But look at this freezing rain breaking out across those areas that just got several inches of snow as we're getting into Wednesday night. And just a nasty mixed bag of precipitation begins to move into PA. New York starts off as wet snow maybe in the early morning hours of Wednesday for southern New England. Of Thursday. But look how heavy this snow is up here. Detroit, it's just a big question. This could be a big winter storm for Detroit, but it also could be just a nasty, icy mix. And then we start to get into Thursday morning. just a sloppy winter storm, just mixed bag of winter precip, eventually changing to rain. Then there's going to be another storm after this. But like I said, we're just going to stop it Friday morning. GFS, colder. In fact, Tuesday morning, I would bet this. This is what I'll say for northern North Carolina. I think you're going to get a wintry mix Tuesday morning in northern North Carolina. Maybe as far south as Raleigh, heck, Hickory, Winston-Salem, Greensboro. I think it's very possible to get a brief wintry mix Tuesday morning. I really do. So we start to get into midday Tuesday, 1 p.m. It's a little colder on the GFS. GFS continues to be colder, and I don't know if I'm buying it. It wants to bring heavier snow further south into Kentucky. Really heavy snow. I'm telling you, this I cannot tell you this enough. This will be extremely heavy, wet snow. A lot of warm air advection. Same thing on what we dealt with the system this weekend in the Northeast. And this just, man, super heavy snow, like really close to Richmond. But there's going to be that mixing corridor in southern VA. But this continues. How far north will it get? The GFS keeps this further south, which is why it's probably colder. And but I would say the GFS and the Euro agree with the fact that the system doesn't even have a chance to let up before the next round of moisture moves in. Wednesday afternoon, it starts to go crazy again with the ice, freezing rain in these areas. Here comes the other winter weather side of this, and they kind of connect here. And this would definitely be all snow if the GFS is right in Detroit. And then even Cleveland wants to keep you guys all winter weather on the GFS. And it's just a colder run. More winter weather for the Northeast as we're getting into Thursday morning, but that orange, that pink, that is sleet and freezing rain. And and then we got to watch Friday. It could be a sneaky little event after all this, but like I said, we're just going to stop right there. So let's compare some model guidance. Okay? And in fact, we're just going to look at the Euro. And 18Z is running, but it's not even close to done running yet. European model, what does it show? Here it comes. Wants to dump a lot of snow into Virginia, the Delmarva, right through D.C., right through Delaware, Dover, and a lot of snow into eastern West Virginia. Okay, and I'm going to zoom into some of these areas, so bear with me. And then here comes the system right behind it. But you notice there's this gap. And that's very possible to happen. Doesn't mean you're not going to get any winter weather. It just means you could get ice. And it really takes a really strong snowstorm right through lower Michigan into southern Ontario and then Quebec. And really doesn't bring a whole lot of snow at all to the Northeast and maybe northern Maine. So it's wild how it does that, right? And then you look at the GFS. Okay, you see how everything just kind of shifted south? Detroit ends up getting a 6-inch snowstorm. It wants to drop over a foot, which is probably overdone. It probably is. I'm not going to say it is. Never want to be exact with the way you say things. But it continues to pump out over a foot of snow. I mean, even close to like Richmond. I just think this is overdone. But it does shift the axis on the northern side of snow further south. So therefore, interior sections of New England gets crushed with heavy wet snow with this second storm, which is what this is. And you just get a mixed bag of precip everywhere else. It's going to be a lot of sleet. And you look at the blend of all models between now and Friday morning. It's probably underdoing this a little bit in the Mid-Atlantic, but brings a few to maybe several inches of snow in New England, southern New England, PA, closer to the big cities along the I-95 corridor, but keeps that heavier snow inland. And we just do need to watch out for ice. And we're going to zoom into this ice area right here, but there's going to be ice, there's going to be sleet everywhere. So let's zoom into the Mid-Atlantic. And of course, we're going to get more detailed about you guys in Indiana, Ohio, and the Northeast, but I just don't think you're going to get much from this first system. But we need to talk a lot on that first system and really zoom into the Mid-Atlantic. So that's what we're about to do. First off, let's show a little love to Kentucky. This is the National Weather Service forecast for Kentucky and southern Ohio. A few inches of wet snow is likely. Lexington, Kentucky, you get a couple inches of snow. And there will be just a corridor of light snow in this area too. Into Evansville, southern Illinois, could get a slushy half-inch to an inch. I wouldn't expect a big deal out of this. Not really expecting much of any ice, but it is very possible to get a little glaze of ice from this. So we'll watch out for that. But let's really talk about the Mid-Atlantic. I want to show you the NAM, and then I want to show you the HRRR model. But I'm going to tell you right at the dot, I'm already buying the NAM more. The NAM has done well over the last few winter storms. So timing is right here. This is 6 a.m. Eastern time, Tuesday. So winter weather beginning to move in, and that's very heavy wet snow into West Virginia. Okay, but this begins to move in. This is like Tuesday afternoon. Just leave it at that. That kind of pinkish orange color, that is sleet. You don't even start off with snow down here in like Roanoke, Richmond, Danville. This is all heavy sleet down here. Doesn't mean you're not going to get snow, but the NAM model says you're going to deal with a lot of warm air aloft. But in this area right here, this is like 6 p.m. Tuesday. This is extremely heavy snow. I mean, in this entire area where it's blue, that's very heavy, wet snow. That's heavy sleet. And then that purple, that is freezing rain. There's going to be freezing rain adding up down here. Now you keep going. The mixing line tries to creep up to DC, but doesn't quite get there. But it does get to southern areas of Delaware, and it gets through the Delmarva. I read some comments, and honestly, I'm getting a lot better with just not even caring. I care. I'm always down for constructive criticism, always. But, there was one guy that was really upset about what happened in the Berkshires or something in southern New England with this last winter storm. It definitely underachieved for some. For some, it was right on forecast. But this is why I'm mentioning the fail modes, because they're already going for like 4 to even 8 inches of snow in this area. You got to put some respect on the NAM's name because it's trying to already sniff out a warm nose. Let's back it up a little bit. It barely even starts you guys off with snow in Roanoke and Charlottesville. It just gives you guys a period of snow. Charlottesville, it stays all snow, heavy, wet snow. But we start to get into the middle of the night. This is Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. This is like midnight. It's just snowing like crazy in D.C. up to Baltimore, up to Philadelphia. And look, this gets all the way into southern PA. But you got the corridor of ice still down here. Just getting a lot of nasty wintry mix down here. I mean, even to the northern counties, like north of Greensboro. And this is as far out as it goes. I won't go out any further in this. 60 hours. And then we take a broad look because the NAM does get the snow pretty far north. Like around midnight, Tuesday night, it gets, this is going to be a sharp cutoff too. It gets the snow all the way up to New York City, all the way up to Long Island. This is as far out as we can go. And it looks like it's creeping up to the shorelines of southern New England. But it wants to get some heavy snow all the way up to Philadelphia. I'm telling you, this is heavy, heavy snow. Now, the HRRR model, which by the way only goes out 48 hours, it's much colder. In fact, it's so cold, it wants to start it off as heavy, wet snow in the northern counties of North Carolina. I don't buy that. I think you'll get a wintry mix. But it gives you guys hours of heavy winter weather in the northern counties of North Carolina. And it has a snowstorm about to move into D.C. So I say that to say this. I'm about to show you the individual graphics from the National Weather Service for these areas. It seems like we're on a bad streak lately of just us. These forecasts just not panning out. Seems like if your area is calling for 4 to 6 inches, you end up getting like 2 to 3. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's look at this. Let's start off on West Virginia. This does include areas of Ohio and even Kentucky. So Charleston's going for about 3-4 inches of snow. Okay, Snowshoe about 7 to 8. Beckley 4 to 5. And it's what it is. Hopefully you can see it pretty well on your screen. All right, let's go down to the Roanoke, Blacksburg area. Roanoke, Blacksburg going for 3 inches of snow. Lexington 5. Lynchburg 3 inches. You're going to get some sleet mixing with this too. Wytheville 1 inch. You're going to get icing with this. Charlottesville 4 inches on this graphic. I'll probably show a different graphic for that area here in a second. Ice, I don't know what's up with this ugly, glitched up looking map, but here it is. Blacksburg going for almost a half an inch of ice. I don't know why this is so glitchy looking, but this entire area you see on your map, good for 1/10 to almost a half an inch of ice. You're going to get sleet mixing in with this too. It's going to be just a nasty mixed bag winter storm. Please don't discount the ice if you live in all these areas right in here. And then we jump over to Southeast VA. Richmond going for 3 to 4 inches of snow. But this is an area I'm trying to get the message across. I know they're calling for 3 to 4 inches of snow in Richmond. Salisbury, almost 5. Cambridge, up 5 to 6. I could see it happening up here. Louisa, maybe that's how you pronounce it, 6 inches of snow. Ugh. If you're living in this area and you're tuning in, say if you're in Richmond, you got kids, don't tell your kids it's going to snow Tuesday into Wednesday. I'm telling you, just let it be a surprise. I'm telling you, I'm just warning you, this is an area that's tricky. Let it be a surprise, guys. I would say that about it every time. That's how I am with my kids, and that's how I try to preach it to everybody else around me. Now, this is an area where I could see the forecast achieving correctly. They're going for 4 to 6 in D.C., Baltimore 4 to 6, Hagerstown 4 to 6. I mean, if you live in the dark blue, 4 to 6 inches of snow. That yellow 6 to 8. Warrenton 6 to 8, Charlottesville 4 to 6. I think most of this area, except maybe once you get close to the Interstate 64 corridor, maybe, is going to stay heavy, wet snow. That's what I think. Now, I need to go back here and look at ice, too. There is some ice forecast. Farmville, 0.2 of an inch of ice is possible. So some freezing rain with that. Now, Eastern PA, New Jersey, Delaware. Dover going for around 6 inches of snow. I could see that happening. I think you're going to struggle with mixing once you get down to Bethany. That's why there's significantly less being called for. Cape May, 4 to 5, Atlantic City. This could be a southern New Jersey special. Trenton, 2 to 3, Philadelphia, around 3 inches of snow. And it drops off pretty fast. But I'm telling you, if you live up into Allentown, Somerville, Reading, you're plenty cold enough. The forecast could change pretty darn quick up in this area. Same thing with southern PA. If you live in Harrisburg, York, Lancaster, all these areas right here, heck, even up to State College, this forecast could change fast. Right now, calling for a few inches of snow, but you're on the northern edge, and we know all about these northerly trends, okay? That's not, I'm going to have that off. And then we look at New York City. Same thing. Even up to Boston, which I don't have a graphic for southern New England up, New York City calling for a solid inch of snow. But there is a possibility this could trend north. If it trends north 30 miles, you could go from being calling for an inch to 3 inches of snow. If it trends north 100 miles, you could end up getting an all-out snowstorm from this. I think in general, New York City got anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow from this last one. It looks like I saw a lot of 4-inch amounts, which is actually what the National Weather Service pretty much called for. But Long Island, I would watch out. This could trend better for you guys. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all folks watching, especially the ones that, had plans for the Super Bowl and decided to watch my video instead. I really appreciate y'all. But God bless all y'all. We'll do it again in the morning. Have a wonderful night. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you again soon.